proceed with the adoption of the agenda. Are there any additions or amendments to the agenda? I don't think there was any, was there? No. Okay. Seeing none, could we have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
I
Councillor
make that
Donaka?
motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Thank you. And the next item is scheduled delegations. So we have Tammy Kalita here from the Sesquicentennial Committee, and she is here to bring us up to date on the Sesquicentennial Committee, and we are turning the chair over to you. Welcome.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you coming.
I appreciate being here. I also appreciate the town putting together this committee for us to celebrate Canada's 150 next year. And I realize this presentation is late in coming. Apparently there's been a lot of requests for it, and I'm glad to say that we had a very productive last meeting and we were able to put together hopefully the information that you guys are all looking for tonight. Our theme, we came up with a theme for next year, and it's called Unplugged Connectivity. It was established to help us as a guiding in our planning. The onset of technology that has been inundating our community, we decided that we were going to encourage getting unplugged and having people connect, whether it be through families, communities, First Nations, Métis groups, and having them all come together in unity for this next year. Our first meeting was held in April, and it was quickly determined that everybody on the board had a complete passion for Canada, and that we were going to work together to make memorable and diverse events for our next year. Each delegate assumed a responsibility for hosting an event or working with a host group that they were passionate about, and some of these involve financial gains or no financial commitments from the Sesquicentennial Committee. Some events have also been developed by members and other community organizations. So careful consideration was given to legacy projects as well, and we are presenting you with 6 ideas that have all been that will all require that are being invested in by the community, and only 5 may require partial funding. 3 will require additional dollars for the finalization by either grants or individual sponsorship. So we're going to start off with McIntyre Park. The Beautification Committee has requested $7,500 to finish off the gazebo, and part of this is going to be putting a plaque on it. And part of that plaque is going to be a memorial to Mary Douglas. Apparently she was instrumental, and I was hoping Trish was going to be here to talk about it tonight. She was instrumental in McIntyre Park at some point, and this plaque would be affixed to the gazebo in her honor and memory.
Before you go further, the Beautification Committee, have they passed that at their committee, or
yes.
is?
Yeah. What I was told.
That's what you were told. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And then the town has somehow over the years lost its pennants for the parade route. So we thought part of the legacy of leaving funds available to replace what could be done with all new pennants, and then the way the parade route will be new and shiny for next year. We've seen a presentation from Lori on a revitalization of JC Park and possibly what it could become in the future, and through lengthy discussions on the amazing plan that she has for it and possibly the resurrection of the Sports Complex Society, we decided that we cannot move forward with any concrete plans for next year, but we can leave part of the money to her to come up with a conceptualized plan so that we would have something to present when we are going for fundraising opportunities, and have this feasibility study done to see if we can fit an amphitheater in there, the dog park, and all the other avenues that she's got an amazing idea, and we just know that we can't do this in the next year, but if we can contribute to it and in some way have a recognition of that, that would be an asset. The estimate there was $50,000 to come up with a feasibility plan that would involve some kind of 3D model, so people could actually see the different facilities, and at that point they could easily, say we're going to work on the amphitheater this year, and actually place it in there and say this is where it's going to go, who's going to, who fundraise for this event, for the dog park. So that's kind of how that whole thing shut down. Now there's the Canada 150 Mosaic. This took a little bit of planning on behalf of Canada, these mosaics are gonna be placed within all the different communities in Canada if you buy into them. They're quite expensive. The small 400 tile project is $12,500, and I believe the 750 one is over $17,000 for them to come in and do these mosaics. It involves artists in the local community or schools that'll come together and create the tiles, and then they bring their staff in to prep the walls, put the tiles on, but then it becomes part of a national campaign, and it'll basically put High Prairie on the market. People are going to see all the historical mosaics. So it's a really good project, and right now, once again, we were gonna see if we can find grants for this and commit $4,000 out of our budget towards that. Now, the other one, next one is the Friendship Accord ceremony. Debbie brought this to the table right early off when we started our meetings, that through her meetings that she had been at, it was becoming quite essential that we try and unify our communities around us and come together with a ceremony of some kind. And Friendship Accords have been done all over Alberta with First Nations, and Slave Lake did theirs 2 years ago? Yeah, and so what it does is they come up with a document that becomes a signed document, an agreement between the 8 communities around High Prairie, and then including High Prairie makes 9. And when Debbie explained this proposal, I went to the First Nations communities, some of my friends, and I asked them, is this the year to do this? What is the feeling within the communities? Is this gonna be something that they would find interesting, an avenue to be an investment for our area? And they went and basically unanimously said, it's not about us, the elders, it's about engaging our youth to break down the trust barriers that have been broken down over the years. We can't change our hearts, but you might be able to change the youth that are coming up behind us. So part of my rambling and over extravagant thinking, I came up with a structure. Actually, the elders sat there at my desk and went like this. And he went and he says, if only we could come together in unity. And I said, there we go. There's our structure. We need to come together in unity. So to make something that, like, I know there's the big egg, there's all these things, and this is, in my mind, a way of us representing our community and bringing all the communities around us on one event, one day, where we can maybe create a structure similar to a teepee. It's a home, it's where people come together, it's where you visit, it's where family comes together. And I know it doesn't appeal a lot to the Caucasian crowd, but we are dealing with 5 First Nations and Métis settlements around us, and I think if we look at the symbolism of the object rather than what it actually is, it'll appeal to everybody. We have local contractors who are willing to build, erect, and donate to the structure, and if approved, and I will go, and I've already talked to some people with INAC, see if we can get some federal funding to do. The other half of this whole event would be the First Nations want to be involved with hosting the largest round dance in Canada, possibly World Book Guinness Records big, and getting all the schools bussed in on a school day and involving them with the largest round dance either in the vicinity of the object, the monument. And then this commemorative structure is going to be a place where all these students will remember that on this day, right from grade 1s all the way up to all the First Nations grade 12s, they're going to come in from Gift Lake, from Whitefish, from Driftpile, and have all the students come into our area and be there. And then if all goes well, they're going to have a huge feast as well. So it'll be Aboriginal Day, possibly June 21st, and it will be something that we can do. I think on my budget there, it's $69,000, what we've come up with the budget. So then the $30,000 would actually go towards the cement, the sculpture, and the construction. And then there's a lot of in-kind that's gonna go with that as well. So that was that project. And as far as locations, this is something that I'd have to work with Brian and your development committee. But we did look at JC Park as possibly a location for it. We looked at, you have a lift plant across from the Peavine Inn on the south side of the road. It's back on a little trail in a tree wooded area, which would be perfect. It's got parking already. And there would be adequate room there for the structure. The cement on the base is 45 feet round and the poles are 40 feet high up in the air. So it is a significant structure. And then the other location, which I'm tending to lean to, I forget who brought it up at the meeting, was east of the provincial building along the river, where that big province is with the Mugo pines that have gotten out of control. If that could be removed and a little parking lot put in there. It's a grassed area and I believe maybe possibly part of the town, you know, not on provincial property. So that was the other location that I thought of because it's already got basically all the infrastructure that we need. So that was that proposal. I believe that this is a year to try and unify our communities around us, and I'd really like to see it go forward. So then the next one is the refillable water stations. This came up as part of a legacy project as well, and so I talked to the Watershed Council, and they believe that they can find funding for 2 to 3 of these units to be placed within our community, and then possibly in kind have the town maintenance staff install them. They do come with frost valves, so if there's like, I've only just showing you one picture here, and this has got the dog watering feature on it. So we had discussed possibly near the Nazarene Church on the JC Park Trail where people walk their animals and dogs. There's other ones that can just be a water bottle filling station off the side of a building. So even at the skate park, to have one of these installed there so that kids can reduce, reuse, recycle, the whole get rid of plastic idea. So that was that idea, and then that would be just an in-kind legacy project that we can leave. And then if RBC and TD Blue Water, TD Blue Water, I think is the grant, come up with it, then we would put their logos on there as well as the Watershed Council and the Sesquicentennial logo, so it would be just something that is going to be available for the community in years to come. So those are the hard projects, the infrastructure projects. The last ones here are basically working on what I consider the surplus funding, things that make things fun. Part of our community engagement, we have, like on the back of here, you'll see everybody who's in charge of different events. Brian Gilroy is in charge of our December 31st events because we're going to give Canada's birthday a good kickoff. The fire department is partnering with us and we'll be setting off fireworks. And then Brian is having a family event at the Sports Palace to get families involved in first night kickoff. And it says Bethel Baptist is a host church organization. What we've done here is we were partnering with different groups. Some have confirmed and some have not confirmed their participation. So please do not put this into hardcore things as gospel that these organizations are involved. The ones that are confirmed I will tell you as we go down the list. Debbie and Lori are working on a proposal to minor hockey to host organizations here, and pending the successful bid for either one of these or both, we will just have part of our budget from promotional items and flags being carried at the event. There will be actually no budget involved in that event. The rec board too is doing swim over time. They're doing a history swim. I don't know, just to bring you up to speed, like this is already in the works. They've already got people, so they're going to be swimming over time. So their normal swim challenge is going to be going, and that's no money to the Sesquicentennial Committee either. So then we've got Noella and Michael working on a Black Tie Film Festival. They're going to do competitions for poetry and for film, and hopefully culminating with a Black Tie Gala where all the films will be delivered to the public, and then we will have winners, and there will be prize money involved with the students in the different categories. In May, we were planning to do the accord ceremony, possibly June 21st on Aboriginal Day. The actual confirmation of that is still up in the air. And so far, First Nations involvement is Sucker Creek and Drift Path. They're both on board as far as I know. And then, we've got the time capsule and the museum anniversary. The museum board has sent a letter to our committee requesting that they be involved and actually spearhead the time capsule opening. For those who don't know, in 1967, the time capsule was buried by the museum, and it'll need exhumation and preparation before any ceremonies can be done. They want to link it with the museum anniversary. I think it's the museum's 25th anniversary, and so they want to put an event together for August. We were hoping more to do it with Brian's event on July 1st, but the museum board will be meeting on, I think, the 17th of January to go over how they're going to actually plan the time capsule event. And they actually requested funds for us to provide a new time capsule to be opened at the bicentennial. So that is their request to us. So the museum is definitely on board. The rodeo parade, we're just going to be doing a float theme for the parade. I've talked with the Elks, and they said they've never done a theme parade before, so they thought it would be a very good idea if we did a Founding Fathers, back to historic days, and then we would have the sesquicentennial float early up in the parade, representing High Prairie. And she's been in contact with a bunch of fur traders, and I think I can get the news from Fish and Wildlife, so we can have a very historic float for the parade. And then part of that would be handing out the promotional items as well. In September, Debbie has been working on the country fair, A Taste of High Prairie, and possibly in combination with the 55 plus provincial games. October, we have Brian, who's worked diligently with the Quilt Guild to build 2 commemorative quilts, one which will be raffled off. The proceeds of the raffle will go to a charity in town, and the other one will be on display in the museum. It is quite pricey, just simply due to the fact that they need to build a museum quality case to hold the blanket in, and that will be on display at the museum for all future generations. Another cooperative project that we have going on is with EC Bar Ranch. They've agreed to do their maze in the shape of the Canada 150 logo. So we'll be giving them in-kind labor to go and help set up the maze for them, and he's quite anxious to be able to get up and drone that and possibly get notoriety again, once again, as having the largest sesquicentennial logo in Canada, is the corn maze. Trish came up with the idea in November on Remembrance Day to have a special tulip wreath made and supply an extra 50 tulips with that wreath, and then one will be added each year and be presented at the Remembrance Day celebrations each year, commemorating the sesquicentennial. And I've already talked with the Legion, and they are on board, and they love the idea. And they will store the wreath and all the extra tulips and make sure that they have somebody to do the presentations if we don't designate somebody to do that. Then there was a Winter Light Up Chili Cook-Off, that was in conjunction with the beautification. Winter Carnival, Lori has talked about all the different ideas that can go with a Winter Carnival, and some of them are absolutely amazing. I've never been involved with a Winter Carnival, but when these girls from back east get involved, they've seen it all, I guess, from indoor competition games, there's gonna be hand games. And originally we were thinking around Family Day to do something like that, but she needs a little bit more time. So to move it to November makes more sense to be able to plan an event of that size. And possibly in conjunction with Light Up and make that even a bigger event. And we've got the live nativity scene, that's another thing that doesn't involve any contributions on behalf of the Sesquicentennial committees. And it will definitely give us a little bit more promotion if we hand out more items at those things. So part of the budgets there, you'll see that we've got advertising. I was requested on behalf of the committee to ask the town if they had any money available for advertising outside of what we're doing here, and I was told no. So we do have a $15,000 budget that would include radio advertising, which they've agreed that they will give us. They will match dollar for dollar any costs that we put into advertising, so we can be guaranteed that this will be broadcast quite heavily over the next year. And then we would like to get sesquicentennial flags from approved vendors for distribution to all events that are going on, especially if we have the provincials here in town. The town will be able to fly one on the poles, and then rodeo will have one as well, and so these flags will be basically on a check-in, check-out basis. And, there's even talk of having a raffle by planting a loonie in the ice, and then they'll have, a draw box, and then as the loonie gets put back into the ice in September, it'll have to be fished out, and we'll have a draw, and that person would receive one of the flags plus the commemorative loonie that was in the ice this year. So just another event that is very inexpensive, but definitely gets a lot of involvement over the summer. The draw boxes would be placed in all the town facilities if they wanted to, and this would be ongoing advertising again on the radio. The town is sponsoring this event, and go and put your name in to win the commemorative flag. So, do we have any questions? I think I'm just about over my time.
Questions, Councillor Rose? Part of the committee, so you know. Councillor Tanaka?
Thanks for coming. It's nice to see that we have a budget and things seem to be taking form as opposed to where we were at months ago. I think that with the direction that the Sesquicentennial Committee now has, hopefully these events will be able to take place, and we'll get a fantastic turnout, and it'll be a celebration of a whole year.
Thank you. Of course, you know that the budget has to be approved by council, so it will be an agenda item for another meeting, but I would imagine that your fireworks in January will go ahead, so it's kind of an interim type of a thing, but this will be approved or whatever in early January, so you'll know where you're at. But certainly the fireworks, you know, you've purchased them, they'll be going ahead anyways. Okay. Councillor Panasic?
Oh, thanks, Tammy, for coming down. It's exciting. You got me excited to hear all of the stuff that's going on. But I'm looking at the budget, some of the practical stuff, and looking at there's 99,000, but there's already been some money spent, 6,000 spent.
Well, we're not sure because we don't know. I was actually talking with Linda and Terry today. Oh, do you get the number for us?
Yes.
Okay, and
So far for honorariums and recording secretary to the end of October was 2,900. I have just started getting some November bills that have not yet been paid.
okay,
So that's very close at 3,000. That's right on. But and I guess 2,500 is for the fireworks, so that goes in that. But it's 99,000 plus the 3,000, so a little bit over the budget. Are you
Yeah.
asking for more money?
well,
think.
I wasn't
Or you'll
sure.
find
That's
other
why I have
ways
it
of-
unsure of how much was actually spent on honorariums. I was
Oh,
hoping
okay.
that we were going to have a little bit of a buffer there.
So
But not all of this is concrete. We've got most of the estimates in for all of this, but we're not sure. We haven't gotten any estimates from Debbie on the country fair or how much, you know, what she's gonna require for that budget.
Yeah.
So,
It's-
without, you know, estimates from all the events, there's gonna be surplus money because, like, I can't see us spending, you know, $3,500 on this float. I can't, you know. I'm Ukrainian, I'm too cheap. I'm gonna beg, borrow, and steal most of this stuff. And if we're just getting everything donated from the trappers, and all we're gonna do is make a big Sesquicentennial logo in the middle of a 12x8, you know,
trailer kind
ATV
of
hauler, you know, there will be surplus money. That is, we just allocated this for now in case something came up that we had grand ideas. So.
And my other question, I guess, thanks for that, is with this Friendship Accord ceremony that's estimated at 69,000, the rest is coming from where?
First Nations. I'm gonna
First
be
Nations.
giving them an ask for $3,000 each. I truly believe that
So
everything
that's-
is worth something, so if, The budget actually came in at 34,000 for the monument with the concrete and and I said, no, I'm only going 30,000, so whoever the contractors are, they have to donate. And, between the feasting and the, I don't know if the application to Guinness World Book costs anything, so that was the extra 30,000. And then if, we could provide T-shirts or something to all the students so that they could say that they were there, with their Canada 150 T-shirts on, the budget was around 70,000 for that.
Okay. But that still leaves 40,000, and you were asking for how much from the communities?
3,000 I'm gonna ask.
3,000.
So that's 24,000 on top of that.
Yeah, and then the rest would come from?
Grants, hopefully.
Grants,
And
okay.
INAC, I really wanna get a hold of the federal government and say, hey, we're trying to do this, and what can you give? Debbie actually has, contact as well for our grant.
Community Foundations connectivity.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's all my questions. Good, thank you.
Councillor Gilroy.
Well, I was just given these posters for the 31st that we'll be putting up, as well as I know that there are some that at least one of the schools has it in their monthly newsletter, and so it's a good thing there. And another 500 that you in the fireworks actually is going to the arena for renting the ice. So that we figure it's going to go around anyway, so we'll give them that. And they're opening the concession stand, and they're going to be serving food available, so that'll help. It'll also help with that local business to be able to achieve some extra income as well. I know there's great excitement for the town's participation in the fireworks, and we got to thank the chief for that one. For any of these. For anything else that's in here, I can answer questions, but as part of the committee, I really can't ask Tammy any questions.
I have a question. I don't see anything in here for the Esso lot. Was that not considered as a legacy?
It was considered heavily, and between the communications that Michael was having with Esso, giving us a 10-year lease was not acceptable in the committee's mind to put a permanent structure on that would have to be removed if at any point they decided that they were going to do remediation. So it was, do we want to invest in something that would have to be torn down, disassembled, changed, and the 10-year lease I don't think just met the committee's expectations.
Okay. Thank you very much for the budget. I appreciate the fact that you've spent a lot of time, and
Considering I've only chaired one meeting.
and also that the chart that you've given us as to what the activities will be are also is very helpful. I noticed the Sesquicentennial is doing quite a bit of this hosting themselves.
It's not really hosting, it's working in conjunction with it. Like, I'm just going to the museum board as a representative, they're actually hosting the whole event. So if we provide a time capsule for them, I believe that it'll give us an opportunity to poll the town council as to items that they would like to see in it, instead of it just being solely a museum board event.
Well, I'm actually thinking of some of the other ones, like the Friendship Accord, that's completely organized by the Sesquicentennial Committee, the County Fair. I'm worried about burnout on some of these items because they're quite Winter Carnival. I mean, there's a lot of organizational.
That's why one person's not doing it all. Each of us has taken on a different one,
Oh, okay.
so that
You don't feel that it's going to be too
No,
much.
when we need extra help, we'll be able to tap into the rest of the committee, but, we encourage everybody on the board to get their own people to sit together as not like subcommittee, I guess, but, get the movers and the shakers to do all the work for it.
Okay.
For it.
So what will happen if you don't get the grants that you're anticipating?
And I guess, there will be a surplus in the budget.
Okay.
And Linda, some of these activities may not then happen, right? Because this is a projection based on if we're able to get some grant money and if we're also able to get some cooperation from other groups that maybe haven't committed yet. And that's why you look at some months, there's 2 or 3 things that are going on. So you may end up playing back one, like maybe the Winter Carnival won't happen in November, but there's still going to be some way to maybe help enhance the light up, or there's going to be other things that they're going to be able to do during that time. So
Okay.
it's not going to be 100% set in stone, so we have some flexibility there based on funds, right? Just like the Accord, I'm sure that the ceremony for the Accord is still all just in
It's speculation, because it's really hard to go and ask for a commitment from them to do these unless we're committed ourselves, right?
Right.
And because there's always been a question on the budget, who is actually gonna be making the final, pulling the trigger? Is it gonna be the Sesquicentennial Committee that says, yes, these are our events and we're gonna go ahead with it? Or is the town council gonna be saying, checking this one off and that one off? And I would really hate to see the work that we've done over this last 6 months or 8 months, you know, come down to a point where, yeah, you can do this, you can't do that, we want you to do this, we want you to do that. Like, to me, I would consider that possibly a complete waste of our time. The town should have then, on that part, put together their own committee and decided to do those
We did
things.
put together our own committee, and it was called the Sesquicentennial Committee, and it is including the
Yeah,
members
so
at large.
maybe my clarification needs to be on the budget then, who is gonna pull the trigger on that?
Council. And they will do that either at the budget workshop that is coming up in January 12th, or it will be at a meeting. But it is council's final decision of the
Okay.
people that are sitting here as to, okay, how much are we investing in this, and are we satisfied that we're getting the
Bang for your buck.
bang for a buck,
Yeah.
what we wanted out of this, and that's why we put money aside for 4 years, 3 years, and this is the 4th year, and that's why the buy-in is from council, and that's why the final decision will be council's.
Well, I hope that we've represented your terms of reference, you know, adequately, that we've
Mhm.
actually engaged with these different groups. We've talked to, you know, First Nations, we've talked to Métis, we've, you know, utilized organizations that are already in the community that, you know, are hosting events. And,
So did letters go out to all the organizations in the committees, in the community, or did all organizations get a chance to say, yes, we want?
not yet, because it was at this point, where do we sit with this budget? And how do we present to the town and utilize the budget efficiently? We've posted it on Facebook, I think, 2 weeks ago. And so I don't know what the representation is on Facebook so far. I don't know if our page is a open page or a group page. There's been some miscommunications and a lot of questions that I never asked because I just thought it was being handled. And so, as far as going forward, I can guarantee and ensure the town council that the media will be knowing what's going on and engagement will be done at a level of conciseness so that we have everybody involved. As far as the letters that went out, it was very careful wording at this point. And I apologize that we are 3 months behind the 8 ball now. But I believe because of the passion that the committee has exuded over this time, that they are more than committed to getting each and every one of these events done.
Okay, and we have 2 funding sources for grants. One was the federal government out of Ottawa, the Canada 150, and I believe that our treasurer was trying to get a grant together at one point.
That was a Canada 150 specific grant, and the application was sent in, but it was too late.
So we are not able to get any of that federal money anymore. And the other one was the Community Foundation out of Grand Prairie, who had sent a letter saying, we're trying to get organized, we're trying to get organized. Did they ever get organized there?
No, but they still said when we're ready to make our application, to put our application in, that they have funds, but they didn't send us out there, or it seems to be the money came down inefficiently. Like, they didn't know how much money they were getting, they didn't know the criterias for it, and it seems like, and even Terry had this problem with the Canada 150
Yes,
grant, right?
Same thing.
Because we were put under that pressure to sort of get that application out based on all these applications already being in, and there was no deadline on the grant. And now we're apparently too late on a grant that there was no deadline.
Uh,
the year hasn't even started yet.
You are correct. Some of these federal grants, originally there was no dollar limit. Originally, per project, there was originally deadline. There was originally fairly loose controls criteria. As they got inundated, they all of a sudden put a cap of 50,000 per group. Then all of a sudden they put a deadline. All of a sudden they had lots of criteria, and they seem to have been surprised by the amount of applications and then tried to stop the dam. And I think they were a little bit late, but the people that were a little bit later just didn't get a chance. But you're right, the federal grant people didn't plan it accordingly.
And I will say, I have read where communities received $150,000 for a splash park under that grant.
Wow.
In Prince Edward Island. I'm not sure if it was through their MP that pushed it, but there was a lot of community projects that.
Before they put the top off.
Councillor Gilroy.
Councillor Gilroy?
Councillor Gilroy, what did I say?
That's okay.
Mayor?
Just to reiterate, under the homecoming where it says fireworks 4,000 plus 5,000 cooperative grant BLC, we will all at the, either myself or the council, the committee here, will let you know. Big Lakes County, as I said, approached us to help them with a grant, and they want to piggyback on our July 1st event. And so we guaranteed in their in the grant application $5,000, and they would pay for part of the festivities or the activities we would be doing at JC Park on July 1st. Now, I'm not sure just how much they're going to contribute, because it may be more than 5,000, because we're helping them get a $50,000 grant. And one of the main event out of the two events that they were looking at was our event on July 1st. And they will be, hopefully, if they get the grant, they'll be taking a significant chunk of the expense when it comes to musicians and sound equipment, things like that. So that's what it says BLC in there. And I just want to make sure the council knew that. And we will let them know when MJ, who is the grants person over at Big Lakes County, lets us know what direction they're moving on this, because myself and Nancy have been working very hard on it, and we will keep you guys updated, because we consider this to be a very big and strategic economic event for this town.
Okay, are there any other questions? Not at this point. So, thank you for attending and standing the whole time. You could have sat down, you know.
Oh, my first time.
No, I should have said sit down. So we will take it under advisement, and we will get back to you very early in January, because we have a budget meeting January 13th or 12th? 12th, and we also have a council meeting on the 10th. So this will either be at one of those meetings discussed, a decision made, and so, okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any other scheduled delegations? None scheduled? Do we have public delegations? Any public delegations here? No? Then moving on, we will go to the minutes of the November 22nd meeting. Could I have a motion to accept the minutes? Are there any errors or omissions? Councillor Rose? Were there any errors and omissions that anybody noticed? None? Could I have then a vote? All in favor of accepting? Motion is carried. Next is the financial report for November, and we'll ask the treasurer to come forward. We received a copy of the financial report for November 2016 by email. Is there anything you would like to bring to our attention regarding this report? Oh, we need a motion. Got to get a motion. Councillor Rose?
Council received the financial report with variances for November 2016 as presented for information.
Okay.
The only thing that I didn't put on what I had already sent you is on the first page, the summary. I put down amortization, but I didn't put the word budgeted amortization. That's the amount that was budgeted, but it could be slightly higher or lower once we do the actual spreadsheet calculation with the auditors, because there might be some assets that have been added or subtracted. So that's just the budget amortization. It could vary slightly.
What amount are we looking at right now?
2,019,000.
And is that this?
Yes.
here?
Fourth column,
Fourth column, 1, 2, 3,
Bottom.
4. Bottom.
but at the very top, it should have said budgeted amortization.
Oh, okay. I think that's where I'll put it. I think. Okay.
And the only other thing I'd comment on is the fact that, as per previous discussions, with the amortization, we're in a deficit situation, it looks like, for the, up to the end of November. But once we add back in the capital contributions, we're pretty close to breaking even. So it'll depend quite a bit as to what we find as the final numbers for the month of December. But so far for November, it's looking better than what we expect. It's still not good because of the water and sewer, of course, but it's still better than I expected.
All right, does anybody have any questions on this? Councillor Rose?
If we had any further information on what you figured that the carbon increase or the carbon levy increase is going to be? Because we just discussed this again at our recreation meeting, and I should have asked Lori before she left where she got the information off of some provincial website that is saying 20%. And I know we're only budgeting for, what,
2%.
2, okay.
Yeah. We still haven't got final numbers. It's all still supposed to be happening effective January 1st, but we have nothing concrete. My personal opinion is they're going to do the same thing as what they did with the GST when it got implemented in the 90s, because I remember that very clearly. And it was supposed to have been January 1st, and then because they didn't have all their ducks in a row, they wound up postponing it to July 1st. And so it became effective July 1st. That first year was quite a horror because of the fact that it was only part of the year, and new systems had to be implemented for the second half of the year. But on the other hand, they didn't have their information ready for us to start working with it. So I'm assuming that that might happen. I still don't know. We still have 2-3 weeks to go. And when does legislation close?
But they have given us the information on the gasoline, and the diesel, and propane, and what's the other one?
Natural gas.
Natural gas. So on our natural gas bills, for example, in January, shouldn't we be putting in the 6 cents or whatever that?
It's $1.01.
And isn't that 20%?
It's actually over 20%.
Right, so our numbers may be so far out.
No, but that's only
But
on
that's only on
natural gas.
Right, but
On gasoline, it was, what was it, 4 cents a liter, so it's only 4% on gas.
but there's 20 and there's 4, and we're budgeting.
Well, again,
But
are we
That's only 2 items. So
are we budgeting 2% across the whole budget?
No,
Are we budgeting 2% on certain categories?
correct.
2% probably won't be enough then, will it? Because, again, if we already know some of these figures, and we know how much gas we use, those are where we should be putting, and we know how much diesel, do we use diesel?
Yes.
Okay, so we know those categories, and those are, I think, where we need to increase our amounts.
I will work with the Public Works Supervisor to find out exactly what our usage is in gallons or metric calculations. But right now, what we get in accounts payable is just the final bill. We don't have the actual amount of gallons or liters or whatever else. We just have the total cost. So I don't have those numbers without looking at each individual invoice. So I will look at the individual invoices and work with Public Works to find out what they are.
Don't we have a tender that says we're estimating this many thousand gallons that we use per year?
Not that I know of.
All it is on a price per liter from each distributor.
Okay, well, let's go back to the distributor and ask them how many gallons do they put through on our account. Wouldn't it be easier for them to come up with the amount?
Probably.
So even if it's an estimate, that would be better, and then at least we can get some of those figures in for January 12th. This is not a overnight
Yes.
thing. But the natural gas bills for January will have to include the $1.11, if that's what it is. So who's doing our natural gas billing? Muniware has to put it in, a separate line?
It'll be a separate line.
So they have to require notice, and when do our bills go out? The 20th?
They will be going out in the next couple days for the month of November. And so probably the middle of January will be going out for December. So then middle of February for the January billing.
So you have time to get them to
Yes.
get that into the program. And I think that that's basically all we have to do is those 4 items that the federal government or the provincial government gave us. And actually, when you actually start doing it that way, I cannot see 20%. I can see something like on those categories, a percentage just on those categories. Now, it's others that are going to be impacted because Greyhound is going to start charging more for the delivery. Unless you want to give a 1% across the board for that, but I don't even know how you can do that. Why don't we just wait and see?
But we could implement what we know
Yes.
in those categories, so we're a little closer to an exact amount, right?
For those, yes.
Yeah.
But it's the vendors coming in and seeing how they're going to implement it. So, because we do a lot of freight back and forth, freight bills are extremely,
Balance transport is something
Yeah.
that we use a lot.
we use lots there. But then it's going to be everything, every vendor that we use, whether it's coffee or whether it's toilet tissue or photocopy paper or whatever, everybody is going to be putting on
See,
something.
the thing that I'm not 100% sure of is when they put the GST in, they also gave nonprofits at the time was 50% rebate of whatever they spent, and municipalities 100%. So are we going to be getting whatever we dish out back from the government?
In the news clippings that they've put out, the province, they're not giving anything to municipalities. Like, they've made that perfectly clear, and for some of the things like Edmonton, it's a huge amount of expenditures, right? And there was big complaints that they're not doing that for them, so I don't expect we're gonna get it either.
Did you say province or federal?
Province.
Okay,
for
the
carbon
GST
tax.
was, but the GST was federal.
Yeah, I'm talking province for the carbon tax. They're
Okay.
not, we're not getting a break as
Okay.
a municipality, from what I've read.
Would the GST come on top of the levy, the carbon tax levy?
Taxed
Probably.
on the tax, of course.
Well, they're not allowed to, are they?
Oh, yes, they are.
Okay.
You just look at we'll get gasoline is already taxed, and then the
Yeah,
carbon
but
tax
that's
is
the
gonna be
big complaint
additional,
about
yeah.
gasoline is. All right, so that gives you a little bit of instruction or a little bit of a road to follow on that.
Okay,
Any other questions on we're still working on the 2016 and we kind of got away on that one. Because that was the interim budget for 2017. The carbon levy was on. So do we have any further questions on the 2016, other than the fact that it looks good? It really looks good. I'm pleased with it. I think we have to compliment the administration and in meeting the expectations of this council from the past year. So,
from what I saw, every department has contributed, yes.
and some actually are outstanding. I go back to Peter Key for finding a better vendor for our chemicals. It was a big difference there, I noticed. There's a couple of others that have really taken it to heart and said, we can do better. So I'll use Brian Holmberg's kudos to them. All right, is there anything else? Anybody else want to talk anything about the 2016 financials for November? None? Okay, can we have a motion to accept?
It's already.
On motion, yes. We're voting on it. All in favor? And that one is carried. Now the treasurer's report. And could we get a motion to accept the treasurer's report as presented? Councillor Panasic? And do you have anything to say basically on this one?
It was a busy month.
Yeah.
Good job.
Did,
I have one question.
yes, go ahead.
Just curious, why we did a dress code policy? I missed something, I think.
There have been some comments made from people, both in and outside the organization. And so it was something that was felt was needed, so I figured I'd draw up a draft. And the CAO and I will be reviewing it here the next few weeks.
Okay, any other questions? Councillor Panasic?
Has the subdivision appeal been canceled? That's my understanding. I just want to check.
Yes, the appellant, whatever he's called, has withdrawn the complaint and will be resubmitting his comments and stuff to council later on.
Is there a deadline for appeals?
Appeals, no. And it's withdrawn now, so it doesn't really matter. But he will be bringing it
A
forward
request?
to council again.
The request again?
Correct.
And I'm assuming that that is the process, is it? Because I don't understand how you can, if you don't get the answer you want, you can bring it forward again, or how does that work?
There was some complications in the way it happened the first time around,
Okay,
and some legalities that we found. And it was great for the office that the appellant had withdrew his
okay. So
his
we're
appeal.
satisfied.
We're
we can
very
bring it
happy.
forward. Okay, good. All right then. I think that's it for me. Any other, Councillor Gilroy?
Just, have we actually filled those positions? The positions that were advertised?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I did the interviews the 30th of November and the 1st of December and narrowed down our choice and hired somebody on the 2nd of December, so your next report will show that. And it's in the newsletter that'll be going out to you in the next couple days. We had 30, I looked through over 30-some applications and had a wonderful selection to choose from, and we narrowed it down, and the person decided to take both positions. And the person is Corinne Seville.
Oh, good. Great. Okay. Any other questions, comments? All in favor of accepting for information? Motion is carried. Next item is Hawkins Hep Dumont, and this would be also for the treasurer. Could we get a motion for that item? Councillor Panasic?
I'll make a motion that we received a letter from them, from Hawkins F. Dumont regarding the proposed audit fees for 16, 17, and 18 for information.
And do you, we'll start with the questions then. I'm sure you have one.
Well, yeah, I'm just, I'm just wondering, I read their letter and they were wanting over 3 years, an 8.5% increase, which seemed like a lot to me, and they're proposing this. And I guess part of my question was, did we only have a 1-year agreement? Because I know they were the low bid last year, but was it just 1 year that we had an agreement with them?
I think that's where the problem happened. They did their initial first-year bid, and council made the motion for multiple years. But the motion should not have been for multiple years because they hadn't put a quote in for future years. Their proposal was just for the 1 year. And the amount of work they did, Brian and I can attest to the fact, was significantly more than it was anticipated, and they took a loss last year. And so right now they figure it'll probably be okay to go with a slight increase, and they should work it out okay. Compared to the previous auditors, I can tell you that they're still less than half price. So even with an 8%, I would be very comfortable.
What were the other tenders coming in at when we tendered this out last year? Do we remember?
That was before my time, so I don't know.
Yeah, they were in the $40,000 range.
So these guys were that much lower at the time?
And then we gave them extra money.
No, they,
I thought they asked for an extra.
They did for the additional work that they did first.
How much extra was that? Any ideas?
I think we compromised with just a couple thousand. It wasn't very much. It was still way, way under the budgeted amount. I think you're still 5,000 ahead with the budgeted amount, so.
Herman had budgeted so much and then
Herman had budgeted 30,000 for the audit. There was a $5,000 credit carried over from the previous year from the previous auditors. And so the current auditors, I think, like I said, was still under the 30,000, no problem whatsoever, so.
we negotiated with Hawking at 2 months
Sure, Mike.
to come in under budget, slightly under budget, so.
And you guys are happy with them compared to, I guess you didn't work with the other auditor, but are you familiar with?
I did work with them 6 years ago.
Because they worked here, and they've worked for tons of municipalities. That was.
Correct.
Terry Speaker-Smith, is that who, I think that's the actual person that came, but.
I've always found that different auditing firms have different rates for the amount of work that is done and how in-depth they go. If they understand the organization well, it goes faster, depending who the financial person is and getting their work ready for them when they come in. Again, you can save a lot. I did work with the previous ones. I've worked with a lot of different auditors over the years. I think these ones are quite good.
Councillor Gilroy?
Yeah, I guess I'm in too much baseball dealing with the option years in this one, but if these are the amounts that they're asking, what protection does the town have that say we approve these three, and then they suddenly say at the end of doing our 2016, oh, we need an extra 5,000 or.
Once they make the proposal for the next 3 years, whatever, and council makes that motion, they will stick with that amount no matter what for the next 3 years. But like I said before, the previous motion that was made last year was made by council for all 4 years, but their proposal had only been for the 1 year. So I'm not sure, I wasn't here at the time, so I can't say what happened. But once they put their thing down, it'll stay that amount till 2018. 2019, they might put in a new proposal. That's what a lot of accounting firms do. They'll put in a proposal for 3 years at a time or 2 years at a time, and that's usually fairly standard.
Did you actually see their proposal? Hawking, Zepp, and Dumont?
After I got the initial phone call, yes, I looked it up and everything else, and yes, they had only made reference to the amount for 2016.
I just cannot believe that we would have gone ahead with a motion for more years than what was. Okay.
Yeah, no, that doesn't make sense, because I remember a conversation and we were concerned of not approving them for more than 1 year because we were changing and we didn't want to agree to a longer term until we had an opportunity to see how they did. So that to me doesn't make any sense that you guys found a motion that says that we approved a longer contract, because like I said, we were changing them and they were substantially lower. So there was concern for, why are they lower? Like, we'll take a chance. That's right. So we'll take a chance on them for a year, and if their quality is good, then that's great. We've got a bargain. But if not, we don't want to be signed into a 3-year lease.
Councillor Gilroy?
I know that you're good with our numbers. What have we paid for the last 3 years? Any idea? Because I know you like going back and back. So, and then what have we projected for this next year?
55,000, and then this year was under 30.
One more question.
Yes, Councillor Rose.
So their quote to us that we approved was 23,500, and then they came back and asked for $5,000 more and you guys renegotiated? Is that sort of what I'm hearing?
The amount that they asked for was for the extra work that was done above and beyond their audit. There was a lot of accounting type stuff that had not been completed that they had to do.
So going forward, they don't feel like that. So the
No.
quotes that they give us now will be the numbers that they,
Yes.
and they won't be asking for extra
Nope.
money.
They also, the first year of any audit, this is something that maybe council isn't aware of, so maybe I should explain on that part. The first year of any audit, there's a lot of extra work that has to be done with the research, making sure the previous person's numbers were accurate, making sure to find out where things are, to get looks at copies of the motions, find out what your policies and bylaws are, etc. The second year, they have all that already. They've already examined it, and they just have to look at the stuff that's new from this year, and they can just quickly go forward. It's standard for a lot of audits that the first year is a lot more involved.
All right, Councillor Panasic?
Yeah, given the information I've got, we can vote on it, or I can just withdraw my motion, because I was thinking we had a longer contract with them, and then they're raising it by that much. But given that they don't, and it's still a reasonable rate, I'd change my motion. So if that's all right.
Withdraw and make a new one?
Withdraw and make a motion that council approve the audit fees as follows for the years 16, 17, and 18 with Hawking, Zepp, Dumont as presented in our package.
All right. Is that something you want to share with the rest of us? Treasurer, do you want to share that with the rest of us?
I was just pointing out to Councillor Gilroy that his question regarding the previous 2 years' audits are in your financial statements that I gave you for November on page 4.
Okay. All right then, so we have a motion to approve for the next 16, 17, 18. So just a minute now. We would like to, for the next 3 years, so shouldn't it be 17? 16?
To do the 2016 audit, to do the 2017.
It's always a year behind.
2018.
So actually, we're getting 4 years out of this company. All right. Any other, okay, all in favor of the motion? That motion is passed. So the next item is the 2017 interim budget. Could I get a motion, please? Councillor Gilroy, you want to make it?
What do we put in blanks?
I've got the numbers here for you right now. No problem. We didn't have the numbers at the time. So the first one is total revenues of 5,378,645. Expenses of 8,294,879. Amortization expenses in the amount of 1,972,506. And an operating deficit of $2,916,234. The reason it's at a deficit because it's your interim budget is because the property taxes and the grants have not yet been included. Your budget that you'll have in the spring will have those amounts and it will no longer be a deficit, it'll be a surplus.
Okay. All right, Councillor Gilroy?
So Nancy, you got those amounts?
What was that very first one again?
Good motion.
Okay, I'll make the motion that council adopt the 2017 interim operating and maintenance budget with the total revenues as said, total expenses as said, including amortization expenses in the amount of $1,972,506 and the operating deficit of $2,916,234, excluding the amortization expenses. Is that close?
Yes.
So I have a question. Why is the amortization included in the total expenses and yet it's excluded in the deficit?
Because it is an expense, it has to be recorded as an expense. But when you want to figure out your deficit situation, it's not a cash one, it's a non-cash item. So it's not part of your surplus or your deficit.
Okay. So if you really want to know what the amount would be, you would add the two. No, you wouldn't. We don't know what the amortization expenses are, do we?
We always knew an approximate, we never know the exact until we do the spreadsheet. Last year was budgeted just over 2 million, and in 2017 it's budgeted just under 2 million.
1972506? Nope, can't be that, because that's.
That's what I have
see,
for
yeah,
2017.
Including amortization expenses of 19, yeah, okay, I understand that. All right, is there anything you'd like to bring to our attention in this budget, 2017?
So, as I said, your first category in your summary page shows that your general municipal services, which is basically your taxes, it's all blank because we don't have those numbers yet. Council is on page 5, 6, and then continues thereafter. There are, all the ones that are highlighted in the last column, the 2017 budget column, are the ones that council has made changes or requested changes, or there has been changes due to council motions that have been made. For example, the ATCO franchise fee, there was two other ones, don't have the email in front of me. There was 2 other ones that I changed according to what you The AUMA membership is now in the council department, so that one got switched over. The carbon tax, of course, is going to have to be added in. But like I said, it's just the highlighted numbers that are any changes that were from your original draft budget. There's only maybe a handful of changes since your last budget meeting on October 31st time period. There are very little changes overall compared to your current budget in the summary. I didn't get a chance to finish the sheet, but I did a draft sheet quickly of comparing your 2017 budget to your 2016 budget, and the bottom line is minimal. So, and I can forward that to you after I'm finished tweaking it.
You'll forward it to us after you add in the carbon.
I can also do that, yes. But like I said, I haven't finished tweaking it, and of course, we don't have the final numbers for 2016, so I'm using the budget numbers, which are, some of them are not correct, but.
You said we'd be
Councillor Rose? Yeah, go ahead.
that we'd be forecasting a surplus in the spring. Do you have the amount? Do you have an idea? And
No.
is that going to be comparable to where we were like last spring?
No idea yet.
Okay.
It'll depend
I'll
on
ask
grants
that
and,
later, okay.
and all kinds of other things.
Councillor Panasic, did you have?
Yeah, I do.
Where are we at with the rec board budget? Because I know we didn't approve the budget they brought here. We put in last year's budget into the, this budget. So, and that's where we're at, is that the?
Basically, what happens with this interim budget, we are using last year's numbers, you're correct. You guys have not approved any of the budgets for the requisitions yet. Normally what happens is the first requisition payment that goes out to these different organizations will be in the amount of 1/4 of whatever the previous year's was. And then the second quarter adjusts to whatever you guys have approved in your budget, your final budget. And then the next 2 payments are exactly 3 quarters and then 4 quarters. But the first 2 will vary. The same thing happens with us when we pay for our school education taxes to the province. They send us an approximate. That's what we pay for the first payment. When they give us the final numbers at the end of February, or some years it's the end of March, then we have to adjust the second payment to them, and they equal out. Then the third and fourth payment are whatever the budget was.
Have they gotten back to anybody with a new budget, Ryan? No? Okay, because I know they were supposed to be reviewing their budget yesterday, I believe, because they had a meeting. So I was just curious if, because we had some issues, and I'm wondering what they've done with them. Okay, and.
Are you talking about rec board?
Yeah.
So, did we not present a budget that was balanced based on last year except for their 18% carbon tax? And then didn't we say that we would just have to deal with the carbon tax as it came in? Isn't that like, I mean, I know I missed a meeting in between.
That
but
was your discussion,
That was
correct?
the discussion. So
But I
their,
don't
their budget that they presented us minus carbon tax is the same as last year.
There was also some other issues. For example, they were saying that there was a 2% increase for staff, yet in their budget itself, there was the rates for increasing of pay varied from 10 or 11% down to 4% or 1%. We're going, well, how does that work? What's the difference there, right? So there was some things that didn't fit.
Yeah, they didn't bring that up. We never
Okay.
got another budget at that meeting.
Okay, and then the other thing was how are we gonna deal with COLA? And they were gonna go back and discuss the COLA, as my understanding is 18 reasonable, or how are we gonna deal with that?
COLA?
Or not COLA, sorry, carbon tax. Sorry, yeah. And then I guess my other question, just so I'm clear, and I think I know what it is, but we've got in our interim budget 2% COLA, and that's probably what I was thinking ahead as in our budget. But given that the budget isn't finalized, is there payments going to be going out, or are you going to wait until the budget's finalized before making any COLA adjustments?
Normally what happens in that case is the same type of thing. We pay the same wage as we normally do. Once the COLA is approved or not, then people will go retro to January the 1st. And so it'll depend. And as I mentioned before, the reason I put 2% in the budget, I figured that way council has the option of going 0.5%, 1, 2, whatever. I would love it if you guys gave more than 2%, but I didn't think it was reasonable, so I only put 2% in there. But I figured that gives council the option to go up as high as 2%, no problem.
Any other questions regarding the 2017 draft and interim? This is not it's an interim budget based on a draft of the 2017. So any of these figures can still change, and some of them will change from the January 12th. When's our special meeting? January 12th, because that's an open meeting. We'll be getting feedback from the public regarding this. So is this available, this draft, will it be available on our website?
As soon as you guys approve it as the interim, we can definitely put it on the website or whatever you guys prefer, no problem. But until then, I can't.
Okay. All right then. Any other questions? None? All in favor of the interim budget? It's passed. Post on the website. Would you like to, do we want an ad in the paper saying interim budget's available on the website? And please comment, or how do you want to comment? Councillor Gilroy?
I would probably like to see it on the signboard instead.
Okay.
I know people say that you don't stop fast enough to see it, but it does go off. You know, we go through the intersection a lot. At least I know I do.
All right. How about a news release then to the radio station and the South Coast News?
Is our newsletter, it hasn't gone out yet?
The newsletter is already printed and photocopied and ready to be inserted into the utility bills.
Darn, because we could have put it in there.
I did put it in there in my my blurb. If you look at the last line, says, reminder that council has set a public hearing for the budget.
Oh, yeah, and that you passed you anticipated the passing it.
I told her I didn't enjoy that.
I think we should also do a news release to the radio station and to the newspaper. And since the reporter has left, otherwise I'm certainly sure he would have put it in his story. So send them a news release saying it's on our website. Now, what kind of feedback are we looking for? Just come to the public meeting, or are we?
I think what we should do is provide some copies of this document at the front desk, and if people want to come in and
Okay.
take a copy.
Can we post it though? Because some people don't want to
Oh,
come
yeah.
in.
Yeah, it'll be posted on the website, and they'll also get hard copies.
Saying on the
Yeah.
sign.
But if they wanna.
On the sign, they'll get a notice saying, it's available on the website.
Yeah, in the budget meeting, open to the public will be.
And
There you go.
if council wishes, we can also specify that if they have any comments and cannot make the public hearing, to direct them to somebody to amalgamate them. Would you like that to be me or yourselves?
Yourself, probably.
Okay,
The rest of the council agree? Direct them to the treasurer or the CAO. You can decide amongst yourselves who you would like to take them. All right then, I think that's a good information source, and hopefully we get some feedback. And on the 12th, will we get some visuals, pie charts, something like that, to say, okay, this is how much we spend on roads, this is how much we spend on administration, this is how much we
Pie
spend.
chart.
Yeah, let's get some, let's get some,
How about sugar pie?
Can I ask just a question about so this is a public meeting that we're having. So when we discussed, we were talking about the sesquicentennial budget, we said that we're having a workshop to discuss the budget and that we would talk about it then. So we're doing this, we're gonna talk about this, those projects at the open house?
we can either talk about it there, or we can move it as an agenda item to the January 10th. And I'm open to whichever one, how you want to do it.
I think you were gonna put it on the 10th, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll talk about it on the 10th, it won't be on the 12th.
Okay.
And then call for a special meeting on a Thursday,
Special meeting 2.
discuss the budget.
Oh.
But not for this.
That's the 12th.
12th is the, 10th is the council meeting, 12th is the open public budget deliberations, or,
my understanding is that the public hearing is not a meeting per se.
no, it's just to review
Correct,
and answer questions on the,
yes. And you won't be able to finalize your budget anyways,
No.
because you won't have the numbers from the province.
right, and it's from 3 to 8 open house. So we're hoping, that's why I want some visuals.
Okay.
And what did you say?
I took it back to my office already, so.
Oh, okay. Was it just something we decided tonight?
No.
I don't have anything, it says special.
Well, there was another meeting at.
No, that was, you asked, that's a good act that early she could meet on a day, and
Oh,
For the municipal.
that was for municipal, I think.
municipal,
Municipal workshop.
yeah, development plan,
Yeah.
or Mackenzie. Okay, so that's a different item. All right. We have a motion. Did we vote on that? We did?
Yes.
So we're ready to move on. Next item is the December 27th meeting cancellation. Councillor Gilroy?
Okay, I move that council cancel the regular meeting of council scheduled for December 27th, 2016 at 7 p.m. and direct administration to advertise the cancellation.
Discussion, comment, all in favor? It's passed. Next item, office closure. Councillor Gilroy?
I'll get this one too. I move that council receive the notice of the office closures for December 26, 27, and 28, 2016, and January 2nd, 2017 for the Christmas holidays, for information and direct administration to advertise accordingly.
Questions, comments? Councillor Panasic?
You know, when we say we're receiving it for information, it means that it's almost defeated, right? Like, that's the way we deal with it. So when we put for information in the motion, it makes it sound like this is a motion that's being defeated. So I think we should change the wording away from for information, and that council approves the office closures from December 26th, 27th, and January 2nd, and direct administration to advertise accordingly. You know, take out that for information, because normally when we receive it for information, it's not approved.
Yes, because the
Councillor,
motion prior to for the closure, for the cancellation of the 27th, basically said we approve it in direct administration, and then this one says we approving it or accepting for information. So it's a little confusing.
Yeah, different terminology for information. Though-
I'll accept a friendly amendment by anybody who wants to give it.
Wait until, can your treasurer?
Could that possibly be because the first one is applicable to council and the second one is applicable to personnel, which is under the jurisdiction of operational? I'm just wondering.
I'm reading it to say that they're notifying, administration is notifying us. And we don't have to do anything with it, we're just being notified. And that's how I'm reading it.
Okay, I didn't read it that way though.
And yet when we get a request from somebody for money, and it says, could you please support us, we just receive that for information. And those are the ones to me that should say, we defeat, and we would direct administration to write a letter of, refusal, or, so.
Explanation or something.
Yeah, because I don't think it's polite for us to get a letter from somebody and never,
respond. Yeah.
we never respond. But anyways, that's here nor there.
I'll just add to that because I had an interesting conversation with Municipal Affairs about this, just because when I was talking with them about the bylaws, and it was interesting. I asked, it is for information. We as council think that it's not approved, but somebody reading the minutes that's not on the inner circle wouldn't realize for information means that it's defeated. And, maybe we need to be clearer on that. And Municipal Affairs said, well, there's two trains of thought on that one. And one train of thought is, it's a polite way of keeping a motion sort of positive and saying, we're receiving it for information. It's a positive way of saying no. But other people say, yeah, it's confusing. It's not plain language. So you should say, we are not approving the request for, even though it's a negative motion. It's maybe another way to handle it. And she says that their councils across Alberta handle it in one of the two ways, and the people disagree on the way it should be handled. But it's interesting that it's not in total agreement that for information means it's defeated.
Yeah, that it's going nowhere. We're just taking it for information. Okay, so in this case, we are just taking it for information because administration has chosen the dates already. And we're directing administration to advertise the fact that they are closing. So the wording is correct here in this sense. We need to vote on it. All in favor? It's carried. So you can give actually that some more thought as to how you want to word those, but our procedure bylaw at this time says that we are not encouraged, or something about don't make big negative motions. It's right in our bylaw, so we're kind of stuck with for information for the time being. You can move it at your leisure.
We could just add that we would not be funding, like it's a request, we would not be funding the sponsorship request, but we will be receiving it for information. So we're receiving it and we're
We
not
could say,
ignoring it,
we
but-
receive your request for information and direct administration to not fund it. Well, there's your not again, but.
Yeah, we'll let you work on it, Frank.
All right, next item is, does anybody want a break? Break, Donna? You're a smoker. Break over there? Yeah, I can tell. We'll break. We'll break till 10 minutes.